Hi, this is Rachel, also known as Teacher Mom. I'm part of the Etc. by Danyale creative team, and I'm here to show you today some of the ways that we used the Seeing Clearly Oversize Alpha and show you a technique to clip a piece of paper directly behind the letter. So the first page I have for you uses the letters as the title and as the focal point of the page. The next one, the C, is part of the title, draws your attention to the journaling behind it because of the transparent letter. You can still see items that are behind them. This one uses the number as part of the title. And this one is the first of the ones to clip a paper to the letter so that you don't see the paper anywhere but directly behind the letter. And Tammy's done the same thing in this page. So I'm going to switch over to Photoshop, and I'm going to use the letter R. I've got a lowercase letter R open here. You can do this technique directly on your page. I'm just going to show it here so that there's nothing else distracting. There's two different ways you can do it. What we want to do is get a selection around the outside of the letter or the number that you're using. So the first way to do that, one way to do that is to hold down Control or Command and click on the thumbnail over in your Layers palette. I'm using Photoshop CS5. These techniques should work with most, if not all, versions of Photoshop. I don't know how far back these techniques work, but I bet that there's a way to do this in many different programs. So I just used Control and click on the thumbnail. And then I'm going to come over here, then I'm going to come over here and get the magic wand tool. It might be behind your quick selection tool. I don't know which one is default open. But you're going to hold down the shift key and it brings up that little plus right next to the magic wand. And you're going to click inside the letter anywhere that didn't get selected, because we just want the little marching ants to be left right around the outside. There's a little spot up here. Alright, that looks like all of them. So now we have the letter selected. There's one other way to do that, and my brain, for some reason, likes to do things the way that takes more steps. This one is a lot faster. With the magic wand tool again, you're going to select somewhere that doesn't have the letter, somewhere that's empty. And as long as your contiguous box is checked, it's going to only select around the outside of your letter. Now this is the opposite of the area that we actually need. So we're going to go up to Select Inverse. And now we have the right spot selected. So whichever way you get to this point, whatever makes more sense to you. Then we're going to grab the Paint Bucket tool. And you're going to create a new layer and fill that new layer. You're going to deselect, either Command D or it's up here in the Select menu. And I'm going to drag the layer that I just made underneath the acrylic. So now we have the clipping mask layer. I'm going to call that the clipping mask layer. It's just the shape that we made, and the acrylic on top. Now to get a piece, you can leave it like this. You can fill it with a color that matches your layout and use it just like this, or you can pull in a paper from the kit that you're using. In this case, I was using Etc. by Danyale's Favorite Moments, and I want the octagon paper. So I'm just going to place that and resize it so that it fits the whole alpha. And now comes the magic, I guess. This is what saves you from having to erase. I don't like to erase if at all possible, like on a paper, because if I change my mind, want to try out a different paper, if all I've done is erase, then I have to do that step every time I change my mind. And I like to change my mind a lot. So I'm going to create a clipping mask, and you do that by right-clicking on the paper in the Layers palette and choosing Create Clipping Mask. And that just essentially masks that paper to the layer below it. So all you see is that R that we made at the beginning. Now I can, because I'm working on a different page, I can grab all of my layers, move them over to my page, put them where I want them, and I'm all done. In this case, I'm going to shadow the bottom, the layer that the paper is clipped to, because I don't want the shadow to be on my acrylic. I want it to be underneath. So, and one last thing I want to show you before I close this tutorial is, instead of a paper, you can always clip a photograph to your letter and have just a little bit different effect. Instead of having paper, it can be a photo. So I hope this gave you some ideas for ways to use Etc. by Danyale's Seeing Clearly Acrylic Alpha, and thanks for listening.